like Ron said, my name is Hannah. I'm 20 years old and I have lived in Salt Lake City, Utah for almost the last 15 years of my life. I was born in El Paso, Texas, and so that was a cool experience. And then we moved here when I was 6. So anyways, I'm just kind of gonna jump right in. Like Ron said, he sent us this list of like 10 topics that we could talk about, and one of them was steps to eliminating negative self-talk. And when I read that, I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not doing that one because that's like a huge problem for me. And then the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, okay, no, that's exactly why I should choose that topic because it's a very real thing for me. So negative self-talk has been a really big theme in my life, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. To be clear, it's not something I conquered and I'm now telling you guys how to overcome. It's something I've dealt with a lot and am currently going through. I've come a long way and God has helped me a lot, but I have nowhere near gotten rid of the problem. In fact, this past week has actually been really bad for me, and I've dealt with a lot of negative self-talk and dealing with a lot of insecurity just in this past week. So I felt like it was kind of silly to be writing a talk about steps to eliminating negative self-talk when I was having a really crappy week in that regard. But when I sat down to write it, God just reminded me of a verse that I want to share with you guys, and that's 2 Corinthians 12:9, and it says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." So negative self-talk and my own personal insecurities are a major weakness for me. So guys, this is me being open and boasting in a big weakness of mine in expectancy that God's power will show up amidst it. Also, to preface, before I start my story, I want to give a disclaimer that for me and my personal struggle with negative self-talk and insecurity, it's been in my body and the way that I view myself. And that's just been my story, what my struggle has been, but for you, it could be something totally different. Maybe for you, your negative self-talk could be about an aspect of your personality. Maybe it comes from something you feel you're not talented in or can't do well. Maybe it comes from your height or your size, or maybe you have multiple different things, or maybe it's none of these things at all. So as I talk about my body and insecurity in that, I want you to replace whatever your insecurity is with that when I say it in the talk. Okay? Yeah? Okay, cool. Awesome. Let me pray real quick and we'll get started. God, thank you so much for this time. I thank you for every single one of these students here, every single person that is here at this camp. I pray that you would bless the next couple days as they're here, but that your spirit would come down and just be with us in this time. I pray that you would use me and my weaknesses right now, that your power may show up here and your Holy Spirit may move, and that we can hear from you in this time. Amen. Okay, so like I said, I'm 20 years old. And fun fact about me, for over half my life, I have been heavily involved in ballet, and I've trained in ballet. So I actually did that from ages 6 to 18. And during that time, I was dancing 4 to 6 days a week. And every day of the week, when I did that, I was training in ballet anywhere between 2 to 5 hours a day. So during that time, during the 12 years of my life, I was training in ballet anywhere from 8 to 20 hours a week. So ballet is a beautiful art form, and I'm so grateful for all the years I got to be a part of it and train in that. And I actually made a ton of amazing friendships while I was there that have carried into my life even now, and that I'm so grateful for. But something people may not know about ballet is that it's extremely competitive. And there is a lot of pressure as to how your body should look when you're a ballet dancer. To sum it up, the rule of thumb was the skinnier you are, the better, and the more successful and valuable you are as a dancer. Isn't that so against what the Bible says and what God says about where our value comes from as a person? But that's the lie that is the culture in ballet, and something you get told and have to deal with every day. I started hearing this false message when I was just 6 years old, and I was in an environment that was setting me this message up to 20 hours a week. Also, keep in mind that in ballet, you're in a room that is full of mirrors. The walls are mirrors. So every hour that you're there, you're in the situation where you're looking in the mirror and you have the horrible resources and tools that you need to look at yourself and pick out every insecurity that you can find and every single little detail that you don't like about yourself. And then not only that, you have a girl next to you and a girl next to her and a line of girls next to you that you can look at in the mirror and then compare yourself to. So, yeah, it's a really difficult environment to be in. I was a pretty small kid growing up, and I fit that ballet body description pretty well until I hit the age that every poor junior higher goes through, puberty. And to my shock and utter horror, honestly, when I hit puberty, my body started changing in a way that took me far from the description that I thought I was supposed to look like as a ballet dancer. I actually started hating my body and how it looked. I despised it because it made me feel less valuable as a ballet dancer and therefore less valuable as a person. During that time, I was trying to lose weight, eat less calories, or do whatever I could to try to make myself look like what I thought I was supposed to because I did ballet. Meanwhile, I was constantly comparing myself to all those other girls through the mirror and wishing I could be one of them instead and just look different. I felt trapped in a body that I hated. So this all continued until I was 18 and I decided to quit dancing. And honestly, you guys, one of the biggest reasons I decided to quit dancing was because I did not want to deal with my body and the way that I felt about myself in that environment anymore. I'd had enough and I did not want to continue. It was too hard for me. But unfortunately, after I was no longer dancing, that mindset didn't go away. It was helpful to not be in that environment every day anymore, but my brain had already been told how to think about myself, and my brain didn't just stop thinking, I have to be skinny so I can be a valuable dancer after I quit dancing. My brain was still sending me that message, and I wasn't even dancing anymore. So now that you know that and kind of my backstory, flash forward to a year later when I had graduated high school and I got involved in a Christian college campus ministry called InterVarsity, which come talk to me about later, or Nathan, or a dude that's coming later. That's how I met both of them, and it was such a life-changing thing and has continued to be such a life-changing thing for me. But something cool that InterVarsity does every spring in March, they take a trip to Catalina Island, which is an island off the coast of California, and while we're there, we take the entire week and we study in depth either the first half of the book of Mark or the second half of the book of Mark. And I've now been there 2 years consecutively. So this past year, which keep in mind this story is just from 3 months ago, I went and God chose to use that trip in a huge, huge way for me in my life in speaking to me about the way that I viewed myself. So we were in session and we were studying a passage where the Pharisees asked Jesus if they should pay taxes to Caesar or not. Let me read it to you real quick. It's from Mark 12. When they, the Pharisees, had come to him, Jesus, they said, "Teacher, we know that you are true and care about no one, for you do not regard the person of men, but teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Shall we pay or shall we not?" But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said to them, "Why do you test me? Bring me a denarius," which is like the coin from that day, "that I may see it." So they brought it to him. And he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is on this?" And they said to him, "Caesar's." And Jesus answered and said to them, "Render," so give, "to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and give to God the things that are God's." So the Pharisees are trying to stump Jesus and ask him a tough question. And this is actually a really interesting passage. There's a lot going on here that I'm not going to go into detail just because it's not so relevant for this talk, but it's a very cool passage. What is relevant and what I do want to talk about is Jesus' answer to their question. He asked them, "Well, whose image does the coin have on it?" And they said, "Caesar's." So Jesus told them, and this is what's really important here, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and bears his image, but give to God what is God's and bears God's image. And guys, we bear God's image because he created us. So then our study leader asked us a follow-up question to this passage. He said, what is it that you owe God and are robbing him of because you are bearing his image? What is it that you owe God and are robbing him of because you bear his image? In that moment, I was just struck with the thought that I was robbing God of the worship he deserved for creating me the way that he did. I actually started crying. It was really emotional for me. It totally changed my mindset and the way that I looked at myself. It became not about me and what I looked like, but about God and giving him the glory he deserves for making me in his image. Then, and by the end of the trip, I had made a pact with myself that when I got home from the trip, I was going to set out each day and choose every single morning when I woke up to live my day in worship to God for creating me the way that he did, for creating me in his image. I challenge you guys, do this. It's an amazing thing. Do this so that when you're going about your day and you have a moment of insecurity or you start to think negatively about yourself, stop yourself and say, no, today is a day of worship to God because of who he made me and how he made me and because he created me in his image. He made me to bear his image and he's amazing for that. Let your moments of negative self-talk be your reminder to praise him and give him glory for that. So turn your moments of insecurity into moments of worship. Turn your moments of insecurity into moments of worship. So coming back from that trip, I've been doing that really intentionally in my life, and I'm not perfect at it, but wow, it has made an impact in the way that I view myself and my everyday life. 10 out of 10 would recommend doing this and being intentional about it. Okay, so I want you to do something. Think about your very favorite brand name or designer, one that you would buy any product from just because it was that specific brand. It could be Jordan's shoes, you know, like the athletic shoes everyone's so excited about and ordering and like so stoked about. It could be Brandy Melville, a brand like Chanel or Louis Vuitton, or if you're me, it's probably Adidas, which is ironic because I'm wearing Nikes, so just ignore that. But whatever that brand is for you, think about it. Literally anything that brand makes, you probably think is amazing because it has that logo on it and the brand name, and it's from a specific designer, right? Guys, it's the same way with us and God. God made us and we are his designs. We carry his name and his logo / image. If God had a logo, it would be stamped right on your forehead. And here's the thing, there is one designer in the entire universe that is the ultimate designer. We were created and designed by this ultimate designer. This designer is God, and he is the one that created and designed us and whose image we are made in. And that is an amazing thing. That's crazy. We bear his name and we bear his image and we have his mark on us. We have so much to be thankful for and praise God for. And when you realize this about yourself, it changes the negative self-talk game completely. Because as soon as you realize how much you have to be thankful for and how wonderfully you've been created, whether you see it or not, it becomes a praise and worship to God situation, not a negative self-talk situation. And that's the goal, to view yourself as something to worship God for and thank him for. Because when you think bad thoughts about yourself or you hate the way you look or something about the way you've been created, you are dismissing God and the incredible creator and designer that he is. So I wrote up three tips that I have and things that have been really helpful for me in my personal journey with this and struggle with this. So I wanted to share them with you, and hopefully they can be helpful or give you some ideas as to things that you could do in your life that could help you overcome this and in your journey. So the first one is pray to your creator and ask him to give you new eyes to see yourself the way that he sees you. Guys, before you start anything in life, whatever you're setting out to do, always start in prayer. Always go to God and ask him for help. And this prayer can just look like, God, I acknowledge that I do not see myself as the valuable and beautiful individual that you have created me to be and that you see me as. So I ask you for new eyes to see myself the way that you see me, and a new lens to see myself through that is reflective of how you see me and how you created me. And that's all it has to be. But God told us, ask and you shall receive. And so if you ask this of him, he will come through and he will start to change your heart and your eyes and the way that you see yourself. The second thing is find someone that you trust, that loves God and loves you, and be open with them about the ways that you're struggling and the things you don't like about yourself. Get a buddy to help you fight in the battle of negative self-talk. So my best friend right now, I have not known for more than 2 years, and one of our most pivotal talks we ever had was about a year ago. We had been meeting intentionally every single week and spending time together over coffee, and this conversation was probably only like a month and a half into these weekly meetings, so I didn't know her super well at this point, but I had had a horrible week of negative self-talk and really hating my body and how I looked. And my value, the way that I viewed myself, was just plummeting in that week. And that morning before I met her, I actually did not want to go. I almost canceled because I didn't want to get up and get dressed and have to look in the mirror at myself and figure out how to put clothes on a body that I hated. And I didn't want to go out in public even. I wanted to stay home and I didn't want to go meet her. But I went and did it anyways, and when I got there, she was like, "Hey Hannah, how are you?" And in my head, I had this moment where I was like, okay, I could totally put on a face and tell her I'm doing great, even though I had a horrible morning and I've had a horrible week, and I'm really struggling with my self-worth and the way that I view myself. I could just put on a face and not tell her about any of it. Or I could actually be honest with her and let her into what's going on with me and the ways that I am feeling broken and the lies that I am hearing right now and believing right now. And I can ask for help and prayer in this. And the second option made me feel really nervous, and I got a pit in my stomach, and I just like knew because of that I had to be honest with her about what was going on. So I sat there in the Starbucks and I just took it deep real quick and was really honest with her about how much I'd been struggling and what I was going through. And you guys, the incredible thing is, as I was telling her this, she looked at me and she started crying. And when I finished my story, she looked at me right in the eye and she said, "Hannah, I feel the exact same way." Through her tears, she told me, "I'm dealing with the exact same thing, and you have no idea how much it means to me that there is someone else that is going through this too, because I thought it was just me." And so we both started crying right there in the Starbucks, and I'm sure people were like, "What on earth is going on over there?" But it was this beautiful conversation where God just showed up and allowed us to connect on something that we were struggling with and these areas of brokenness that we were hurting in. And at the end of that conversation, we actually made a pact that in the future, every single time throughout our week we were struggling with our self-image, we were feeling really badly about ourselves, or anything like that, we were going to text each other. And that other person was going to send us encouragement, and they were going to send prayer. And that conversation happened about a year ago. Guys, this whole year we have been doing that consistently, and it has been amazing. And if I'm being honest with you, which I've been very honest all throughout this talk, I texted her 3 times just this past week in regards to that. But it's amazing, and I would encourage you to do that. And it can be really scary to approach people and be honest about what you're most insecure about. That's a really scary thing, but I promise you, if you do that, God will honor that. And for all you know, the person you're talking to is going to come right back at you and share their deepest insecurities, and you guys will be able to go to God together in that. Or for all you know, they'll actually be dealing with the exact same thing too. So the third thing is cultivate a thankful heart in regards to your insecurities or the things you don't like about yourself. So this one's really important, and I'm going to share, I'm going to share a very vulnerable and very practical, real example with you guys. So being a dancer, you're supposed to be as skinny as possible, whatever, and a problem area for me were my legs. They were way bigger than any of the other girls' legs that were in my class, and that was an issue for me with costumes sometimes and all sorts of different things. So summer rolls around, and summer's a really difficult time of year for me because it gets hot and you don't want to wear pants anymore. You need to wear shorts, but I hate wearing shorts. It's really hard for me to do that. And I'll go out in public, and the whole time I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, What if someone is looking at how big my legs are? What if someone's looking at my cellulite or my stretch marks or the way that the fat around my legs jiggles when I walk or whatever it is? And in that place, in that mindset, you guys, you need to catch yourself and say, no, I am not thinking that. No, today is a day to thank God for my legs. God, thank you for giving me legs that can walk and that can run and that can function, that I can build muscle with. Thank you for giving me legs that can walk, and because of that, I can go enjoy the mountains and the outdoors, and I can go explore this beautiful creation that you have put me in. And I recognize right now that that is not a gift. That is a gift, sorry, that not everyone has. That is a gift that you've chosen to give to me. God, thank you for my legs. And next thing you know, you are thanking God for the very thing that was ruining your day and that was consuming your mind the entire time you were out going about your day. So that's my third tip, is cultivate a thankful heart in regards to the things you're insecure about, and catch yourself. Discipline yourself to say, no, I'm not going to think that, and say a prayer of thankfulness to God in that. So I've won a lot of battles in the war of negative self-talk, but I haven't won the war yet. And I don't know if it's something I'll ever win or be able to completely get rid of. And I don't say this as a discouragement to you, but as an encouragement that you are not alone and that it's a difficult thing. Everyone throughout their life will deal with some sort of insecurity or negative self-talk. But I'm telling you, the only way to win this battle is with God and putting on the lens that He sees you through and learning to look at yourself in that way. Okay, so to wrap up, if you forget everything else from this talk, I want you to remember these three things. 1, God's power is made perfect in our weaknesses. You can count on that, and you can walk out into your day and into your week being confident in that He will show up in your weaknesses. 2, turn moments of insecurity into moments of worship. And 3, think of yourself the way you think about an item from your favorite brand. You carry God's image, therefore you are wonderful. And that's all there is to it.
Thank you. Yay. You pray for us, Hannah?
Yes, let me pray first. Okay, God, again, thank you for this time. Thank you for helping me get through this. This was something I was nervous about, so I thank you for showing up in that. God, again, I pray that this would just help someone in some way, even if it's just one person. And I ask that you would be speaking to each individual in their own way right now. Please be with us through the rest of the day and through lunch. And I pray that you would just use this week of camp in every single one of these high schoolers' lives, that they would be able to look back on this in the future and say, wow, God really showed up for me while I was there that week of camp. And I am so thankful that I went and that He spoke to me. So God, I invite you to come down and be with us through the rest of the day. Bless it, help us to have good fellowship together. And yeah, thank you for who you are in this beautiful creation in this camp. Amen.
Amen.